Apex Carnivores, the strongest and most ferocious predators to ever roam about the earth. And Ark has 5 of them. The Rex, Spino, Yudi, Carcar, and finally Giga. I always wanted to see who was the best out of these Apex Carnivores, so today I'll be comparing all these Apexes to see who is the true Apex King of the Arks. Before getting started though, I do want to say this is my opinion and experience with the game. If I get anything mixed up or forget something, just let me know in the comments below. Anyway, let's begin. Base strength. The amount of damage a creature does without any boost or buff. Now all these guys are among the strongest creatures in Ark, but as any Ark player knows, the Giga takes this. With an unleveled perfect tame to 150 Giga, being able to do around 600 damage right out of the cryopod. They're immensely strong with players bringing in for PvP and to fight the world bosses on Fjords and Extinction. And for the longest time, the only way to fight a Giga head on was with a Giga of your own, earning them the first point in base strength. Health. When first tamed, a Giga and a Carcar will have around 18,000 and 17,000 health. Even a 150 after being perfectly tamed, and after a 100% imprinting will have around 34,000 health. But it gets a bit more complicated than that. Even though Gigas have the highest hit points initially, they only kinda get around 30 hit points when you level them up in their health. Compare this to the Rex or Yudi, who have the exact same amount of health, they can get thousands more hit points on the same rate, making it so you can easily get a Rex or Yudi with more health than a Giga and Carcar. So the Rex and Yudi are gonna take this category.
Also, I just realized I didn't talk about the Spino at all, but that's just because it has less health than the Yudi and Rex. But yeah, so it would gain more health than the Giga and Carcar, but it would also just have less health than the Yudi or Rex. So yeah. In case you were wondering why I didn't talk about the Spino.
Speed. This comes down to the Spino and Carcar. Now both of these guys are extremely fast already, with the Spino being really fast in its quadrupedal form, and the Carcar just being really fast in its normal form. Not only that, but both of these can also boost their speed, with the Spino getting speed buff with its hydration buff after going into water, and the Carcar getting speed buff every time it bites or kills an enemy player or opponent. So this one is a close one for me, but I'm gonna have to give it the Spino. The Spino is just so fast normally on all fours in its quadrupedal form, and just gets even faster with its hydration buff. And even though the Carcar is fast normally and with its buff, I don't think it's quite as fast as the Spino. So I'm gonna have to give speed to the Spino. Stamina. Stamina is harder to choose who has the best stamina, as just because one creature has more stamina than another doesn't mean it has better stam, as you gotta think how fast a creature drains its stamina and how fast a creature regains its stamina. So you gotta take that into account when you are comparing stamina. But between these 5 creatures, honestly, the Rex, Spino, Yudi, and Carcar are pretty good in this category. The Giga, not so much. It has bad stam, it drains really quickly, and regains really slowly, and you can't really level up the stamina, so the Giga's out of this one. It is between the first 4 I mentioned, and if I had to choose between the first 4, I think I would give it to the Spino. The Spino just drains stamina really slowly compared to the other ones, I think, and regains it pretty quickly. So if I had to give stamina to one of these guys, I'm gonna have to give it to the Spino. Agility. Again, this category comes down to the Spino and Carcar, as Gigas and Rexes don't really have that good of agility, and Udis are somewhere in the middle. And the Carcar has a very good turning radius, it's very agile, especially for a creature of its size. The Spino wins this. The Spino literally has a 360 or 0 turning radius when it's in my pedal form, meaning it can literally turn it any direction it wants. Spino just has one of the best turning radiuses in the game, so Spino is going to win this category. Boss battling. One of the most fundamental and important things to any game, and especially Ark, is fighting bosses. It's something you're eventually going to need to do to beat the Ark, level up your character, and truly ascend. This one was hard for me to choose because there's 2 types of boss fights in Ark: arena bosses and open world bosses. Arena bosses limit you to 20 creatures and only certain types of creatures based on the drag weight, which Gigas and Carcars are too heavy and big for. On the other hand, open world bosses have no limits on the creatures or what kinds you can use, allowing players to use Gigas and Carcars. Because of this, I actually will be splitting up this category into 2 parts: the boss battle arenas, where the Rex and Spino and Yudi will go against each other, and the open world bosses, where the Giga and Carcar will be competing against each other. The battle arena. First off, the Rex, the OG of boss fighting. The Rex is extremely powerful with high amounts of damage and health, allowing them to deal serious damage while taking them, with the Courage War of Yudi being able to make the Rex armies even stronger. They're also allowed to enter the tech cave and oversee boss fights on the island. On the other hand, we have the Spino, the arch nemesis and rival to the Rex since 2001. Spino is a very good boss fighting dino with their high amounts of damage per second and water buff granting them higher melee, health regeneration, and speed regeneration, as long as they've been in or recently in water. Finally, the Yudi. The Yudi has the same amount of health as the T.rex, but does slightly less damage. They do, however, have their Courage Roar, which is very useful to boost your allies, and they have their Fear Roar, which can push away minions like the spiders in the Broodmother arena. In the end, this was a tough call for me, but I'm gonna have to give it to the Rex. The Rex just has the most health and deals the most amount of damage normally, which is very important, as even though the Spino Spino's water buff is very powerful. The arena does need water, which most don't, and non-written Spinos can sometimes use their burning attack, causing them to lose their DPS and damage compared to the Rex. They're also too big to fit in the Tech Cave and Ark Survival Evolved, and I don't know about Ascended. And the UD has the same amount of health as the Rex, but deals less damage. They're great dinos to have in the boss arena, but as utility dinos, not the main boss fighting creature. In the end, the Rex wins by having the highest health, damage, and being able to fit in the Tech Cave. Again, this was very close as all of these guys are great boss fighting creatures. The Giga versus Carcar, a tale as old as time. The Giga is the embodiment of strength, dealing mammoth amount of damage. It can have around 34,000 health if imprinted. Carcars are also very strong and have very similar amounts of health to the Giga, allowing them to also survive big hits. They also have their Blood Rage, giving them more strength, health regen, and speed. This is actually pretty easy for me to choose. The Giga is good, don't get me wrong, but the fact that it turns on a player if it takes too much damage too quickly, and bosses deal damage quickly, the chances of a Giga turning on you is high, and now you have to be fighting a Giga and a world boss. So the Carcar is going to take this since its Blood Rage can make it stronger than the Giga, and it won't turn on you. So the Rex takes arena bosses, and the Carcar takes world bosses. Weaponry. The Rex just has its bite, which is powerful, but again, it just has one attack. The Spino also has its bite, and its more powerful attack, its claw attack. Its claw attack has been slightly nerfed from Ark Survival Evolved to Ascended, and now it hits slower and does less knockback, but it's still a pretty good attack, and it's still a very powerful attack. The UD also just has its bite, and the Giga also just has its bite, but it is a very powerful bite. The Carcar also has its bite, but also a giant tail attack move that does AoE damage from every angle, and can do a decent amount of knockback to even the largest of creatures. So if I had to give weaponry to one of these guys, I would go to the Carcar. The Carcar's bite is also just really strong in general, being one of the strongest creatures in the game, and its AoE attack with its tail swipe attack allows it to hit enemy players from all angles while dealing a decent amount of knockback. So for weaponry, I'm going to have to give it to the Carcar. Abilities. The Rex has 3 abilities. Its Roar, which can send enemy players and even flyers out of the sky. The other one that many people might not know about is that the Rex deals 50% extra damage to herbivores, making collecting meat and hide easier. And as a little side note, it does normal damage to stegos. And it can wear a tech suit. Now some people might not consider this an ability, but I do. The tech suit shoots lasers which can be used to destroy tech shields and structures while dealing splash damage, making destroying tech much easier. The Spino. The Spino gets its hydration buff when it's in water or has recently left it. This buff makes the Spino gain a 20% increase in speed, 15% damage buff, and 25% health regeneration. Spino can also switch between a bipedal and quadrupedal stance, with it being incredibly fast in its quadrupedal form and being able to perform a 360 turn in a bipedal stance, as well as being a good swimmer. The UD has 2 main abilities, its 2 roars, the Fear and Courage Roar. The Fear Roar can scare many creatures, even up to the likes of woolly rhinos, mammoths, wyverns, other UDs, and even Reaper Kings. The Fear Roar itself increases the amount of damage a creature takes by 50% and decreases the amount of damage they do by 30%, being really useful to scare off enemy players on flyers and even ground tames. However, the Courage Roar may be even more useful. Instead of debuffing your enemy, you're making your allies stronger. When a UD Courage Roars, allies will gain a 25% increase in damage and 20% reduction of damage, making the UD extremely useful for PvP, especially when raiding, and PvE and single play for taking on some of the strongest creatures in Ark, like the Giga, Titanosaur, and bosses. Speaking of Gigas, Gigas will deal more damage for every hit they take, but if they take too much damage, they will rage out and turn on the riders and tame creatures. Finally, the Carcar. The Carcar has its Blood Rage, which is activated when it kills a creature and can stack up to 100, with every stack increasing the Carcar's damage by 1.75%, meaning a full Blood Rage Carcar's damage is increased by 175%, easily outdoing a tame Giga and even a wild Giga. The Blood Rage also grants the Carcar a boost in health regen when attacking or biting something, and gaining Killing Frenzy when doing so. The Killing Frenzy ability makes the Carcar invincible to stuns and gives it a speed increase. The Blood Rage will start to wear off after a while, but at a slow pace, and can be easily replenished by biting something or killing something. Also, every time it bites, it inflicts something called Shred. And finally, its Roar. The Roar of the Carcar will grant a 10% speed buff to all allied tames, but will drain your Blood Rage significantly, so you gotta be careful when and how many times you use this Roar. You can also stack the speed buff with multiple Carcars roaring at the same time, or one after another. So in the end, they all have abilities that are good in situations, but the Carcar is gonna take it. It just has so many abilities that are useful not only for you, but for your allies, making the Carcar a great fighter and utility dino, giving the Carcar the point in abilities. PvE. The Rex can gather good amounts of hide and meat. They can be used to easily defeat alphas on land, and they can even help you with the ice cave or even some of the bigger caves in the game. But most importantly, you're going to be using them to defeat the bosses like the Broodmother and Megapigus, and you're going to use them to enter the tech cave and fight the Overseer. Also, they do have a tech saddle that can be used to shoot buried creatures or creatures from afar. The Spino can also gather hide and meat, but also this time fish meat. They're used to defeat both land and aquatic alphas, can do most underwater caves, and they can also defeat bosses. The UD can also gather hide and meat, help you with the ice cave as long as you have a crop. Same with the Rex, I forgot to mention that before. But they're mainly used to boost your allied tames in boss fights, the tech cave, and overtier fight. The Carcar can also gather hide and meat very efficiently, help you with orbital supply drops on Extinction, and help you with roll bosses on Extinction and Fjord. They're also able to enter the tech cave normally, but not the overtier fight. The Giga can gather hide and meat again, help you with orbital supply drops on Extinction, and again help you with world bosses on Fjord or Extinction. Overall, I would choose the Rex. In PvE, you're really using all these large Apex Carnivores to defeat bosses, and thanks to the health and power of the Rex, it makes him extremely good for any boss fight in the game, with the exception of the Dragon Mother, because the Dragon's Fire Breath does extra damage to Carnivores, which all these guys are Carnivores anyway, and Mother because she's an underwater boss. However, for every other boss in the game, they're pretty solid option to choose for your dinosaur army. They also can enter the tech cave, and even more importantly, the overtier boss fight, which is one of the hardest boss fights in the entire game. PvP. The Rex has a tech saddle which can damage tech and does splash damage. It also has a roar that can stun and knock players and even flyers out of the sky. The Spino's agility and speed allow it to catch up to players and grow out tames, making quick work of both of them. The UD can encourage roar soakers, giving them more resistance, and boost the damage of damage healers, and can fear roar some incoming tames. The Carcar can be used to tear apart large group of creatures and players and fight some of the strongest tames in the game. The Giga is used to quickly dispatch enemy players and tames, but can range and turns Rider. This was a close one between the UD and Carcar, but just barely the UD takes this. Surprisingly, I thought I'd choose the Carcar, but after looking deeper into it, the UD is just more important, I think. Their ability to boost soakers and help them soak bases is what allows damage dealers like the Carcar to come in and tear apart tribes and tames, so the UD is going to take PvP. In the end, the Rex takes health, arena bosses, and PvE. The Spino takes speed, stamina, and agility. The UD also takes health with PvP. The Giga takes base damage. And the Carcar takes world bosses, weapons, and abilities. And yeah, that's that. Thank you so much for watching this video. And I know there's other categories I could have put in if I want to, like saddle armor or difficulty taming. I just didn't want to put those categories. I think the categories I have here are good. I think I have a lot of them, and I think they're all pretty entertaining in the end. And I do want to say, just because one creature didn't win a certain category doesn't mean they're bad in that category at all. It just means I think one is better. Like the Rex takes arena bosses. I think the Spino and UD are both excellent choices for pretty much, again, for any boss in the game. I just simply think the Rex is better. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day. Like and subscribe if you want to, and bye-bye.